अस्सलाम वालेकुम, प्लीज बी सीटेड। इमाम साहब आ जाएं, आप कोई हवाला शायद कभी ज़रूरत पड़ जाए। और सदर साहब कहाँ हैं? और अमीर साहब आप भी अपनी जगह पर आ जाएं। Are you ready? All the preliminaries have been taken care of.
Assalamualaikum Hazur. My name is Saad Idris and I'm from Redbridge. Hazur, my question is, from what I understand of his...
अच्छा, ये क्वेश्चन करना है। मॉडरेटर कौन है जो ऑर्गेनाइज कर रहा है इसको? वली साहब यहाँ उनकी जगह क्यों नहीं बैठे? वली आप कर रहे हैं इसको ऑर्गेनाइज, बैठे जी।
Okay. Assalamualaikum Hazur. From what I understand of Islam's view on eugenics and genetic engineering in human beings, I understand that it's allowed as long as it is used for the betterment of the human race. Is that correct?
Correct.
So in that case, what is the Islamic view on genetic engineering to make the intelligence of people higher? That could contribute for betterment, but...
What?
The intelligence of human beings.
Intelligence of human being cannot be generated, can it?
Scientists believe it can possibly be by genetic engineering. They could make humans which are born more intelligent.
I doubt if they can, because I have not read anywhere if intelligence can be artificially created in human brains. It all depends on the definition of intelligence. Intelligence is composed of many factors, memory being one of them. So memory can be improved. So far, I think scientists have made the breakthrough that they can improve the memory. In what sense? In the sense that previously it was thought that all the brain cells who once die can never regrow. Now, this theory has been proved wrong, although it was held unanimously by scientists for a very long time. Now, on this they pin the hope that they will be able to build new cells. But the fact is that according to the discovery, the cells are already being made. So what they have proved false is that in the past the cells had always been growing, but the scientists could not experiment on these. So there was a Swedish scientist who pioneered this research, and he happened to have access to some hosts on which he could experiment. But that happened accidentally as a byproduct of his research, his other research. Some people, while they die, offer themselves for medical experimentation. So he found some such source and he got hold of a few brains. And during the study of those brains, he discovered that the cells which should have been killed long ago were still in the process of growth, because when he put that coloring into the brain cells, which could only color newly generating cells, not the old ones. So there he saw in amazement that cells were already growing. So the major part of intelligence is memory. As in computers also, memory plays the most vital role. So based on this information, they thought they could give some additional medicines which would help these cells to grow faster. It is just in the offing. Nothing is definite. But apart from that, the other factors which are responsible for the total build of the memory have not been fully analyzed, and the scientists have achieved nothing to claim such a tall claim.
Exactly. Okay.
Right?
Yes. Hazur, could I ask another question, if you have your permission? Hazur, have the dramatic arts, for example, theatre and film, have the dramatic arts, such as theatre and film, any place in a Muslim society? Can we learn anything from them?
You see, arts and drama,
yeah,
they are the two things, two branches of the same broad word which describes these things as arts. So it cannot be, the question cannot be answered in generalization, because many arts have started deviating from pure science, not science, but pure work of human imagination, to such fields as are also dangerous for human morals. So in this way, like all other Western achievements in science and philosophy, etc., are moving towards making man more immoral. So also the arts is moving in that direction. Even poetry has been adversely influenced. So this is why I discourage Ahmadis in taking part in arts. Moreover, when they build imaginary figures, say, let's call sculpture, when they carve figures out of stones or any metal, this basically is not approved by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because although the intention of the modern sculptor would not be to build imaginary gods, but these images, these idols, actually promote this tendency of human mind to attribute things to these things. Particularly when there is a large area of people who still worship idols, like India and so many others. So in view of all this, I do not recommend Ahmadi youth or old men or women, etc., to participate in these fields of arts. Poetry is good. You can say poems, and poetry is bad in a sense in which the Holy Quran has condemned it, but in all other respects, poetry is okay, all right, and it can be used to improve the moral and social standards of mankind. Thank you.
My name is Hamid from Earlsfield. In a previous question and answer session, I remember somebody asked the question, what is the difference between the mind and the brain?
Yes.
And what I understood from the answer was that the brain is like a tool, and the mind is same sort of thing.
Brain is like a what?
Like which the mind controls the brain.
But when I spoke on this subject, I said brain is like a computer.
Oh yes.
And mind is the operator of that computer.
Yes.
A computer, however advanced it may be, requires an operator. Now they are thinking of building the operators of the computers in the computers themselves. So it can be said, in a manner of speaking, that here is a human brain in which operator is also computerized. But they forget the fact that the human brain is operated by that mind which can think. And this computer brain cannot think. all the thinking processes are fed into it, yet it cannot think. So this is the large difference.
And I understood that the soul is the same sort of thing as the mind.
Soul is another name of mind.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my question is, what controls the soul and how does it make decisions?
What controls the soul is God. Only God controls the soul, and apart from that, those factors which God has created, who build the soul. There are so many factors, and the basic actor in that is the freedom of humans to do either right or wrong. So whatever they do, whatever they choose to do, begins to influence the making of their soul. So that is why some souls are created which are fit to be the fodder of hell. And some souls are created which even taste the beauties of heaven here on earth. And as such, they stand witness that there would be heaven for them in the hereafter. So the souls who are heavenly bound, have their influence on the body which carries them. So that is the factor which I have been repeatedly pointing out, that you can peep into the souls through the eyes of the person who holds that soul. People can deceive, of course, but not all the time, not everybody. The eyes are telltale windows through which you can peep into the souls of bad people as well as of good people. And that is how the soul is made up, and that is what factors control the soul. But ultimately, of course, Allah controls all souls. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, Azur.
Wa alaikum assalam.
My name is Mikhail Chambers. I'm from the Walsall Jamaat, West Midlands.
Yes.
My question is on Egypt, Azur. I'm interested to know, did the early Egyptians, such as in the time of the pharaohs, did they ever believe in the oneness of God? And if so,
Yes.
when did it change or start deteriorating?
Correct. I have made some extensive research into that matter. And I came to discover that those pharaohs who believed in the unity of God, their history was played down by the pharaohs in general. And we come across some pharaohs who believed in the unity of God and who held the flag of unity aloft very clearly. But they were dubbed as some people who have invented a new God. And that is an allegation which is leveled also against Hazrat Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Because in this way they can deceive the commoner. Such pharaohs, as I said, were introduced to the people by the then, orthodox clerics of Egyptian ideology or beliefs. They condemned them among the people, although they could not raise their voice openly against the pharaoh, because the system was such that a pharaoh practically possessed absolute powers. So they lay low and quietly propagated against him and said he is not mentally right. He is inventing new gods. While he was not inventing new gods, he was against inventing new gods. He believed only in one God. So I don't exactly remember the name of this pharaoh which I'm talking about, but I can pinpoint. I have got the books to identify the man again. So before that also, there are many periods in the history of Egypt where one god was presented and one god was worshipped. So it is for the scholars, Ahmadi scholars now, to go through the history of Egypt, not through the eyeglasses of the Western scholars, but by reaching the source material directly. Because most of the Western scholars believe that pharaohs believed in no god but themselves. So under this influence, they do not interpret history fairly enough and independently enough. Generation after generation of these scholars are influenced by the thoughts of the previous generations. So that is the main problem of a student of Egyptian history. I think I have, during my research meetings with research groups, I once discussed this question barely and in depth with the research group to tell them what to do about it and how to make research. So there is a vast area of new research on Egyptology in which I hope the Ahmadi scholars take lead, because the rest of the world has only distorted views and images. Thank you.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, Hazur. Hazur, if I may be permitted to ask 3 questions?
Ask him. Right? Oh, he permits you to ask him.
Jazakumullah. Hazur, my first question. Recently, the British government has announced legislation to remove the right of the hereditary peers in the upper house of Parliament. They're wanting to replace this house with a new system. I mean, what are Hazur's views on how this could be replaced or any possible replacement?
It is not yet very clear as to what may happen. Those experts, the British politicians and experts on these matters, they express doubt as to whether they'll be able to do it in near future, because their legislature depends largely on those lords whom they want to remove. So they are going to fight back. And whether they'll be able to achieve the purpose or not, it is yet doubtful. But if they do, what to us? Doesn't make any difference. Because practically, even now, the legislature has the power to have their bills passed ultimately. If not quickly enough, by 2 or 3 times sending the bills back to the House of Lords, ultimately they have the power to decide it even against their will. So this is a slow process, and it doesn't hurt anybody, not us anyway.
Okay. Jazakallah. So my second question, Ahmadiyyat is here for the renaissance of Islam, as we believe. With this renaissance of Islam, does Hazur also see a renaissance of Islamic science as there was in Muslim Spain in due course?
I doubt it. It's far too late to think of any renaissance of Islamic sciences, because in fact there are no such sciences as Islamic sciences. Sciences are common. They have no religion. The only religion of a science is, or should be, truth. So every science is Islamic in that respect, but those who have followed this, they have reached such colossal heights, dizzy heights of their achievements that for the rest of the world to follow them has become extremely difficult. They are employing the rest of the world to support their sciences. So most of the great scientists in America who have done many major breakthroughs in many scientific fields are non-American in the sense that they originate from other countries. Chinese, Japanese, Koreans, Asians, even Pakistanis, Indians, or Africans, they build the main scientific team which supports the scientific ideas to progress. Even in theoretical sciences, there is a large number of foreigners who are building the basis of American science. So ultimately it's all American. The gain is American. But the loss is of those countries who send their scientists to serve the cause of America. But in another way, it is something which is unavoidable, because American technology has developed in so many fields so much that these scientists, if they return to their own homes, they could not do anything, because the whole scientific setup in their respective countries is so lowly based, so small in stature, that a great mind as they possess cannot be fed properly by the scientific setup of their countries. So these are the factors and many others which make me certain that it is not for the rest of the world to compete with America or the West in general in scientific pursuits. So you cannot defeat them there. It's not possible. But Allah can, and when He so desires, things will begin to happen, so that their own future will slip out of their hands. This is how the Holy Quran has predicted this. Thank you.
Jazakallah. Zur, my
Third question.
final question. My third question relates to Iraq.
Iraq.
Over the last year or so, and currently, there's been a back and forth between the United States and Iraq. They're going to attack, they're not, they are. With the present situation, how does Hazur view these present developments?
Ugly. You see, it's a strange time when America and Britain and all the so-called free world people, they decide to destroy and kill a person in his own country. And they're not ashamed, they're not embarrassed at all. But if somebody else decides to kill a person in their country, there is such hue and cry that the whole world listens to that noise. Look at Salman Rushdie. He offended the world of Islam, which is scattered all over the world. Now, I do not agree with the punishment supposed to be meted out to him by some Muslim scholars, medievalists, etc. I do not agree. But if they, the Western powers, have a right to go to another country and openly kill the leader of that country, then Iran should also be given the same right. It's an open game. If they can, why not? So we are living in a world of dualities, contradictions. And the ultimate lesson we can draw is that might is right. Right is not might. This saying, whoever built this cliche was absolutely right, that might is right, unfortunately. Thank you.
Jazakallah, thank you very much.
Wa alaikum assalam.
My question is in relation to war criminals.
Pinochet, etc. Huh?
Yeah.
Or others.
Others.
Okay.
Generally. Should a man be held responsible if he gets to an old age of his crimes?
You see, this war criminal concept is supported by a very powerful community which is Jewish. And you cannot fight it on. This concept began with them because they wanted to punish those perpetrators of cruelty who addressed their power against Jews, who utilized all in their hands to destroy Jews. Now, I don't want to go into the pros and cons of that matter, how far some people were justified or unjustified, and I do not want to open up the Pandora's box on the issue of whether Jewish claims are absolutely right or far more exaggerated. That's irrelevant. But the whole concept of punishing the war criminals emanates from the Jewish people, so that in future no one can dare do this to them. That is why, incidentally, when it happens in case of other such criminals, they have to support that as well. Whether it comes to a regular head or not, that's irrelevant. They're so powerful in that respect that in Sweden, for instance, they have published a literature about cruelties to Jews, etc., which is going to be distributed to 7 million houses by the Swedish government. Imagine how powerful they are, because they must have underwritten the expensive and told them to go ahead, and maybe they might have bribed the government in other ways as well. But even if not, they have such a strong hold on the world today, they can pursue their plan, their plots, etc., to the success which they visualize.
So like you said, might is right.
That's right. Might is right in the sense that might is supposed to be right. But might is never right. Then other cliche against this, which is that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So might is corruption, right?
Jazakallah.
Hazur, my question is, your morning walks, how do they impact on your spirituality?
What?
Your morning walks, the morning walks you do after Fajr prayers, how do they impact
Everybody's
on
morning walk has different influence on him. So if while during your morning walks, you keep thinking of Allah and His nature and how He's created, so then naturally your spirituality is enhanced. But if you are thinking of some dirty things to which you return the moment you finish your walk, then it will destroy your spirituality.
The second part of the question was, what advice would you give to Khuddam in terms of exercising after Fajr
The
prayers?
same. Please.
Assalamu alaikum, Hazur. Hazur, how can local Qaideen motivate and activate Khuddam in general to participate more in the activities of Majlis Khuddam al-Ahmadiyya and the Jamaat?
What else I am doing? This is my business. In my khutbah, in my efforts, in my advices to Khuddam al-Ahmadiyya, in their efforts to pursue what I tell. This is what they want to achieve. See? And you don't know it. You see a verse which I very often quote as a line, Jane na jane, gul hi na jane, baag to sara jane hai. The whole world knows this and you do not know. While as a khadim you should have realized it. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, Hazur.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Hazur, I've got 3 or maybe 4 questions if you'll allow me.
3 or maybe 4. 3.
Okay. Hazur, the first question stems from an answer you gave 2 weeks ago in a question and answer session relating to the Iranian Revolution. There was a guest of mine who was a friend of mine who had to leave Iran in 1980 as a result of the revolution, and he says that from friends and family that he knows, there was American CIA people in the 60s already plotting to change the power base in Iran from then on. And he says that in his opinion, it wasn't the common people who embraced Islam and who wanted to change things for the good of the people, but it was America who who gave the arms and the guns and the money to the fanatist medievalists.
You see, he has referred to the origin of Khomeinism and how it developed. In fact, this conspiracy was hatched by American intelligence forces, and the field where it was hatched was France, not directly America. So they had decided to destroy Shah of Iran for many reasons, oil being one of those, but so many other reasons. They thought Shah of Iran was walking out of their spell
Towards communism as well.
and was raising his head to become independent. And he had built a reputation in the East among the Muslims to be a power to be reckoned with. And Bhutto, etc., all ran to Iran, to Shah of Iran, paid their homage to him, not to Saudi Arabia as much at that time, then to Iran. So this is a general background in which they had decided to cultivate a plot to destroy Shah of Iran, and they could best employ the religious sentiments of Iran to do this. As such, all the cassettes, etc., were prepared and multiplied in Paris, in France, not necessarily Paris, but in France. And from there, they were sent out to Iran and distributed. So once the mullah was successful in throwing the Shah of Iran, then they decided not to hand over the power to America. They said, why not we? And because the power base was religious fanaticism, so they further strengthened their power base by becoming more fanatic. When fanaticism is the power base, like now it is happening in Afghanistan, then if you strengthen your base, you strengthen fanaticism. They are one and the same thing with two titles. So this is what happened in Iran in those days. And unfortunately, when this was done, then America had other ways and means to have Iranian revolution destroyed. First of all, they were happy with in the sense that they were destroying Islam. By promoting fanaticism, naturally they were destroying. So they could use this revolution to condemn Islam in foreign countries. That is what they have been doing. And internally, they were utilizing the reaction to such despotism as was exercised by Shia extremists. So both ways, they well employed it. And this is a game of politics and a game of trickstery and a game of plotting, etc., in which American CIA excels the whole world. It beats the whole world in this game.
Okay.
So he is basically right.
But then wasn't America scared of Islam?
Pardon?
Wasn't America worried that the Islamic countries would unite and then they
I have already said what I wanted to say. Think over it again,
okay.
please.
So my second question is relating to something that you've talked on a few times on the understanding with relation to the Quran. You've said that if you've read the Quran and haven't understood it, then you can't be condemned for not accepting it. Is that right?
No. That's the problem of understanding. If you misconstrue something, then you're responsible for that. But in the case of the Holy Quran, the matter is very simple. There are two different aspects of the Quran. One deals with the law and Sharia, which is very simple. Do's and do nots. So if basically you do whatever the Holy Quran requires you to do and abstain from doing what the Holy Quran wants you to abstain from, then it is a very simple matter. You can carve your life out of the instructions of the Holy Quran without understanding it in depth. The second part of understanding is to be able to understand the wisdom behind these instructions of the Quran. That part, if you do not properly understand, is not important as far as you act upon what the Holy Quran says. But if you do not understand and insist on imposing your understanding upon the Quran, then you will be held wrong and answerable in the sight of Allah. Third
question. So my third question is with respect to how does one avoid humility becoming insecurity?
Humility?
Becoming insecurity. Insecurity is a bad thing, and humility is a good thing.
Good.
So but there's a grey area.
The best defense of humans lies in humility. So this is security. I don't know what you have in mind when you ask this question, but humility is the best security. If you're humble, you're secure from everything. And that humility would lead you to obtaining protection from God as well. Because if you're truly humble, you will turn to Allah, declaring Him to be the only source of wisdom and knowledge. As such, He gives you a sort of cover and protects you against those who are greater than you in wisdom and in knowledge. because you lay all your trust on Allah in these matters. So it's a very profound issue which I cannot go into detail here, but in many of my khutbahs I have explained this matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum, Hazur.
Wa alaikum assalam.
My name is Usama and I'm from Hayes.
Yes.
Hazur, I have a question which raised from a discussion which I was having with a Muslim friend of mine, he's a non-MD, and he was just talking about what we have to believe in as Muslims, as basic Islam, and I mentioned the 5 pillars of Islam and then the articles, which is Iman. And one of the things he said is that to be a Muslim, you also have to believe in Ihsan. And could you please kindly shed some light on what is Ihsan and what are our duties
Ihsan.
to believe in it?
I think I have already done it in a small booklet. I have covered all these questions. They are dealt with, I think, properly and understandably, because this was a subject which was chosen by which Sevilla University was it? University of Sevilla in Spain, to be the title of my speech, in which the professors had told me that you should address the students who are interested in Islam, but in a manner as they understand the basics, because what Islam is being taught to them is based on the Western ideology. It is taught in a manner that ultimately the sum total of their gain is they grow as anti-Islamic, because Islam is presented to them as a hodgepodge of ignorance which results in terrorism, etc., etc. So the professor, who was maybe he was sympathetic to Islam or he knew our understanding of Islam, so he advised me to speak on this subject in a manner that their sensibility is not offended, but gradually they begin to understand the other side of the picture. So this address was later on retouched by me, and many additions were made. And this is available in a small booklet. What's the title of that?
Elementary Introduction of Islam.
Elementary Study of Islam?
Introduction of Islam.
Elementary Introduction of Islam. In that I remember the word ihsan is fully defined, and I think you will be able to benefit from the study of this book. Have you ever been able to study this?
I haven't studied that book in specific.
Moreover, this question of ihsan has been taken up by me during a series of lectures which I delivered in Pakistan, while in Pakistan, and after coming here as well, on the 3 basic principles of Islam: justice, fair play, and ita'i zil qurba. So fair play is ihsan, and a more advanced form of fair play is ita'i zil qurba. So has this been published?
Yes, this has been absolute justice.
But the last part is being prepared nowadays. So in the first parts as well, you will find this question answered. Wa alaikum salam.
Hazur, nowadays we have this Sky Digital and On Digital, these type of things coming up. Could you please tell me what is the latest developments about having MTA on cable in this country? Please.
See, this development is very encouraging in the sense that we are now shaping our policy in a manner that within 2, 3, 4 years, MTA would be available to every house in Europe at least. Not with antennas, but with whatever they have, MTA will be made available. Because BBC is aiming to reach every house through digital system. So we are following their example, and the type of antennas they know will be built, small antennas in every house to receive those digital signals. We are also boosting our power to a degree that our digital system will reach every home where BBC programs reach. So this will cover, inshallah, the entire Europe and many parts of America, etc. So we are doing it with the grace of Allah, and Rafiq Hayat Sahib regularly meets me to take directions and to implement them. Thank you.
Could I ask another question, please, quickly?
Of course.
Because you answered that very quickly. Hazur, I used to be, before I became involved in the Jamaat, I used to be a fan of science fiction. So this question, to me is a small question, but it niggles me to ask you. In your book, Revelation and Rationality, yes, when you discuss the subject of aliens, there is a verse you quote from the Quran that all that is created in the heavens and the earth is for the service of mankind. And then you also talk about aliens being out in the heavens. Now, the normal TV, the media portrays aliens as coming to attack humanity, and humanity has to defend itself against them. Is there a connection anywhere?
The connection is only this, that this concept of aliens, which is fed into people through television, is definitely wrong. It has no iota of truth in it. Because those aliens seem to have originated not from the known world of sun's satellites or solar system, as a whole. They must have come from somewhere else. And they could not have reached here at a greater speed than the speed of light. You see? Which means that they must have started their journey, earthbound journey, hundreds of light years before. So what food they were eating during this course, and how they were equipped with the sources which could maintain their life, water, food, etc., etc. This is not possible. So no such aliens can come and visit this world. Because all the universe around has been properly mapped by scientists now. And during this mapping of the universe, they have not detected any source of such advanced life which could have reached humans physically even in 100,000 years, light years. So do you think these aliens must have started 100,000 or more years? It's possible. So what is possible is only communication between life elsewhere and the life here. And this is exactly the concept of the Holy Quran. They will communicate. They will be brought together not physically, but by communication. And through communication, maybe some life somewhere developed 1 billion years ago, let's say, for example. And if it was developed enough to have developed the technology how to send those signals, they might have done 1 billion years ago. If they start reaching us now, and we are able to decipher them, then this is also bringing the lives together, sort of. And for this, America is funding some projects in which they are concentrating on reading the possible signal languages which could have been used to convey messages across the universe. So they're already working it. It's not myth, it's not fiction.
Yes.
It's a reality.
Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum, Hazur. Naeem Lone from...
Wa alaikum assalam.
My question is this. I've noticed recently...
Three.
Sorry? No.
Altogether, one question.
One question.
Good. Very good boy.
God Almighty has created mankind, and a beautiful creation it is. Why are all the weakest points in the human body found along the centre of our bodies? For example, the reproductive organs, the solar plexus, this part of our throat, and possibly. And also, I've noticed that everything that we have along the centre of our bodies is singular, and there isn't a left or a right side to that. Is there any significance to this in Allah's design?
In left and right?
No, left and right we have throughout our bodies, apart from the centre of our bodies. And it appears to me that the weakest
How
part
would you suggest it should have been built?
No, this is my.
You see, in organization, there has to be a nucleus, and the nucleus can replace later. Nucleus can be replaced later by a building theme in the center, around which things can be built. So in the huge buildings, skyscrapers, the central frame is always understood to have the center of gravity in the center. And as long as the center of gravity is in the middle, then the building can be raised to great heights. So the same principle is employed by Allah in building not only human, but all animals. They are built on the same principle. They have the central structure around which things grow. Like you can see the trees, for instance. They have a trunk, and branches grow from the trunks on all sides. And a sense of balance is maintained in the middle. Now you understand this? Why?
Well, also there's a style of
You said one question.
Sorry, this is just an extension of that question. Also, there's a style of kung fu known as Wing Chun, and their philosophy of that style of kung fu is to protect just your center line of your body.
Wing Chun philosophy.
Wing Chun.
Wing Chun. And the whole system of that style is to protect the center line of your body.
Yes, that's right.
Is there any significance in that related to the creation of...
That principle is based on the principle of creation which was employed by Allah. So that has to be right. Right?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Shukriya, thank you.
Are you studying Wing Chun or however you pronounce it?
Yes.
Yes, good.
Assalamu alaikum, Hazur. Iftikharuddin from Huddersfield. I'm doing tabligh to a Christian and who asked me that do we believe that Jesus turned water into wine if Allah was to forbid it later?
Jesus what?
Turned water into wine.
Water into wine.
Sorry. Yes, turned water into wine.
He might have turned wine into water, being a prophet of Allah. But that's all just the myths they are creating around Jesus Christ, with no evidence whatsoever.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Fateh Ahmed from London. I read recently that the government of Punjab has unanimously voted to change the name of Rabwa.
Right.
And I'm wondering if you're aware of it, and if you are, what's our stand on this?
I spoke on this subject in my last Friday.
I didn't.
You better have access to that. You see, if those who build a place, they do not have the right to give it a name, then this principle will be applicable to all such matters. For instance, Pakistan. The name given by Quaid-e-Azam was Pakistan. And he had the right to name it. But if they can change, then this Sadr, Budar Sadr, this president with a long beard, he has every right to change the name of Pakistan, because his spiritual master called this country Plidistan. While Quaid-e-Azam had given it the name of Pakistan, this president, the present president of Pakistan, who practically worships Ataullah Shah Bukhari and refers to him with pride as his spiritual master. He should remember, and I'm sure he does, that Ataullah Shah Bukhari gave a different name to Pakistan created by Quaid-e-Azam. So if this principle is right, then that name could have been adopted, while the Sadr has all the powers in his hand. So why doesn't he declare the country to be named as Plidistan? Plidistan, you know the meaning of Plidistan? Whatever is happening these days in Pakistan is Plidistan. You know, all the worst types of evil, whether they are spiritual or political or whatever name you may give them, evil and scoundrelism is what's happening in Pakistan. People rape innocent girls, they abduct child for money, they raid each everybody's home, nothing is secure, nothing is safe. And the Pakistan has now become the world's most unsafe country. Nothing is secure. So if practically it is not Plidistan, what else it is? But we don't want to call our country Plidistan. The president of the country has a right. If he can give another name to our city, Rabwa, so he should utilize this opportunity and rename Pakistan as Plidistan. That will be closer to reality. Right? Understand this point? But this is not what I say. What I say is that this is what they have done to my country. Unfortunately, I belong to this country, and with shame I must declare that I also belong there, which country has been turned from Pakistan to Plidistan by these people. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, Hazur.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Hazur, my question is on the book, Hazur's book, Revelations, Rationality. I've just completed reading it, but I think you should explain that I have read it with a view to recommending it to about 75 of my colleagues in the political and diplomatic affairs. So I had to give them a personal recommendation and bring out points so they could be persuaded to read it when I present the book to them. But reading the book, there was two general points where I was reviewing it from their point of view as diplomats, and there was 2 points which gave me some uncomfort, and I hope Hazur can sort of help me. One was that in general, when Hazur's rebuting their argument scientifically, the Darwins and Dawkins and the naturalists. Hazur is presenting scientific argument to refute them. But in presenting that because they're wrong, therefore, because they haven't got a solution as to what the cause of creation is or creative principles, and the answer must be that it is God who created it. Sure. But to a naturalist or to scientists or to them, that is not presenting your argument scientifically, because they cannot test that scientifically, that because there is no answer.
This is wrong because I have taken up this issue as well. In the end of the book, there is one chapter which particularly deals with this issue of their choices and our choices. We can attribute the evolution to God by, as we understand, God could have organized evolution, which, if not organized by a conscious being above the material, could not have evolved in such a short time. This is the main thrust of my argument. So they have two choices. Either to attribute it to God and understand that there is some ultimate conscience and conscious being which directs the steps of evolution and brings it closer in time. In all laboratories, scientists are working with apparatus. So things, if they are left in the open, they may take to develop, because they are scientific, they are not unscientific. So science laws apply to them. So they may take to for these things to develop in a billion years. But a scientist achieves his object within a year or two with the help of this various sorts of scientific apparatus, which has ultimately developed into a very complex machinery. Now, this is the point which I have raised. Could this machinery be built without an outside mind or not? That is the point. If you reject an outside mind operating this machinery and building it gradually to this highly evolved form, if you reject that mind, then you have a right to reject God.
I understand. Yeah.
If you do not reject that mind, what right have you got to reject God?
Yeah, I recall.
Then the whole development of science, I'm not talking of evolution, I'm talking of this development of science we see today, that should have been attributed to nothingness. They know it is absurd and stupid. So they have no choice. They're compelled to believe in God. But because they're atheists, so they want to hold fast to their atheism, so when you enter that domain, they refuse to follow you. Because essentially they are atheists despite the fact that they have no alternative theory of evolution. Now when you compare this concept with the one which I have presented to you, then whether they agree with you or not is immaterial. They will understand that you are right and they are wrong. Science could not have developed without an operative mind. To such amazing achievements which boggle the human mind. But evolution is far more complex than this. And they say it happened automatically.
Yes.
Now you know?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
The other thing that also made me uncomfortable was that once Hazur had delivered the winning point to each of the naturalists, and Hazur really gone very strong in words, and which are far from diplomatic.
Yes, I'm not a diplomat.
Yes. And that was intentional, was it?
The strong expression was essential for them to realize they should be awakened from that sense of automatically accepting some ideas and beliefs which were handed over to them through generations. They should be shocked. And these strong words work as the awakeners. And this is exactly what the Holy Quran does. According to the Holy Quran, there is a word often used by Allah, Al-Qari'ah. Al-Qari'ah means something which knocks at your doors so powerfully that none can remain asleep in the house after this. So from time to time, Allah employs this method of awakening people. And according to the Holy Quran, they fall back to sleep again. So these are the qari'ahs which are utilized in this book.
Jazakallah.
Right?
Yes, jazakallah.
Acha?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alhamdulillah, mashallah. I thought you were just sitting as a visitor.
Yes.
All right. So go and keep sitting as a visitor. You're not a khadim, are you?
Sadr Sahib has allowed me.
Especially? Huh? Good. Okay. Then I respect his decision, his right to grant you permission.
As I said, that was my last authorization.
Hazur.
Okay. He says, as Sadr, this is my last authorization. Must you retire with a false decision? Please.
Hazur, and I'm the friend
I
of
hope you
mine.
don't mind, This is between us, we know each other very well. Please.
Hazur, an Ahmadi friend of mine asked me this question, which I did not know the answer. Is there any difference in the meaning of the Quranic word kutab, heart, fuad, heart?
Fuad?
Fuad, heart.
What was the first word you said? Qulub? Or something else?
Qalb.
Huh?
Qalb.
Qalb. Now, this is what I couldn't understand. The right pronunciation is qalb.
Qalb, yes.
Not qalab.
I see.
Right?
Qalb.
And fuad.
Yes. What is the difference in the meaning?
You see, the difference has been made very clear repeatedly by me in such sessions in which you also participated. So you might have gone asleep or were left. I have repeatedly tried to explain the difference between the two terminologies of the Quran. Qalb is heart.
Yes.
And fuad is also heart.
Yes.
But qalb is the name of, let's say, the brain, and the fuad is the name of the mind. So this fuad and qalb hold the same relationship as is expressed in two terms, brain and mind.
Yes.
The heart also has a sense, as a source of consciousness, which is being gradually discovered by scientists who know that the heart is actually the nerve center of the brain as well. So it's a very complex relationship, but scientists have proved it, that heart, when it is severed from nervous ties with the brain, the nerve ties with the brain, can build its own nervous system within itself. That is why in some heart failures or heart diseases, a person should have died but does not, because another center is developed in the muscles of the heart, which takes over as though it were brain. So the pulses are regularized by these newly developed centers.
Yes.
So this is the difference.
I see.
As the difference is between brain and mind, so is the difference between heart and fuad.
Yes. Yes. Can I have another question?
Did you permit him to ask 2 questions?
He did not specify.
Okay. He said, I permitted you to ask unspecified numbers of questions, number of questions, right?
Thank you very much for that.
Thank him.
Regarding the situation in Kosovo, can Hazur kindly explain why the Muslim countries are not helping their fellow Muslim brothers who are being oppressed and undergoing so much suffering?
This is a question which I have been addressing to all Muslim countries. You have joined forces with me in that.
Yeah.
The question should not be addressed to me.
No,
it should be addressed to the Muslim countries.
Yes.
And this is what the Ahmadis nowadays are doing all over the world. And Amir Sahib is also participating in that effort to send reminders to the Muslim countries to help Kosovo.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Finished?
Yes.
Good. So it's only 5 minutes after 7:30, huh? And this is the time you had proposed originally. So because it started late by 5 minutes, so we have finished it right on dot.
We've got 2 more questions.
Acha, I'm sorry. I didn't know that. Please. So I can sit longer because my Urdu class is going to start at 8 o'clock. So I have some time left. Please.
Assalamu alaikum, Hazur.
Wa alaikum salam.
My name is Tayyab from East Region, and my question is, at what point in the development of an embryo does life enter it, and how does this happen?
It is said that at about 4.5 months time, the embryo becomes alive. In the sense that if it is delivered at that time, there is a possibility of saving it through artificial means, of course, but by incubators, etc., to save the child as an independent living body.
Okay.
But before that, if it is aborted, nothing would come out of it. It is just turn into a rotting mess. Right?
Okay.
Thank you.
Jazakallah.
Yes, Nasir.
Assalamu
Wa alaikum salam.
My question is on the Native American Indians. I understand Hazur has been expounding in some of Hazur's programs the noble beliefs of the Native American Indians. According to my understanding, the Native American Indians have a noble system of beliefs, but having a noble system of beliefs would not allow back them in their plight.
Would not allow what?
Would not allow back them in their plight. Would he not support them in their plight against the onslaught of the Western?
Who will support them?
Allah.
Allah has supported Muslims all over the world, but when they decided to go wrong, Allah did not force them to remain on the right path. Such is the case of American Indians. They were unfortunately brought under the influence of alcohol by the American leadership.
Yes.
And almost all their remains have become alcoholics. So as such, they are given to materialistic, worldly pursuits as they stand today. So how could Allah help them out of that when they had decided to follow this course? Of course, they were deceived by the Americans, but so are the rest of the people of the world being deceived by Americans. It's up to you not to be deceived. And Ahmadis who are conscious of this, even if they live in America, they are not deceived by them. They remain upright and they do not follow their system, which is a beguiling system, which is wrong. Basically, it is based on a satanic concept of life. Thank you.
Exactly.
Assalamu alaikum, Hazur. My name is Daud Fiz from Keithley. Hazur, my question is on scientific research and discovery.
Come closer to the microphone, please. Yes.
Hazur, my question is on scientific research and discovery. Where does Hazur see scientific research and discovery heading within the next millennium, or within the few years into the millennium?
How does Huzur see the development of scientific research in the new millennium, or at least during the first few years?
You see, the science doesn't know any artificial divide of time. So the new millennium is only a human concept of divide in time. Scientific development is progressive and evolutionary. So it doesn't know when the millennium will take place and when it will not.
If you permit me, can I ask one more question?
Yes, please.
Right. Hazur, I'm a pharmacy student studying my third year at university. What advice would Hazur give to fellow pharmacy students in progression of their careers and into research?
Again, I can't follow him clearly.
He says he's a pharmacy student.
Yes, that I know. But what's the question?
And he's asking what advice would Huzur give to pharmacy students with regards to research work, etc.
I can't give any advice to a student of pharmacy from which he can benefit, because the system of pharmacy is not his doing. He is only a student, and the whole system is built on artificial creation of medicine these days. Now, as long as the system does not realize their folly, you as a student can't do anything about it. Only one thing, perhaps, when you become a pharmacist, when you dispense medicines which are artificially made, you can advise from your own to your customers that this is poison, don't get it. Thank you. Of course, at the loss of your business. Finished? ठीक है. अच्छा जी, जज़ाकुमुल्लाह खान. इनको खाने का वक्त है ना अब? ये खिला चुके हैं. अभी होने हैं इलेक्शन. माशाल्लाह. अस्सलाम वालेकुम रहमतुल्लाह.